Hello, everyone, and welcome to this series of discussions with NGO entrepreneurs. Through these discussions, I want to get to know the people behind the change, the people truly making an impact. I would dare to say that not all NGOs do as they say they will do. And this oftentimes leaves patrons and people wondering what their contributions and their donations actually go for. So I'm dedicating this series to the real heroes, their organizations, and their philanthropic work. As an NGO entrepreneur myself, I understand firsthand the challenges and the victories throughout the journey. And I hope that these conversations help shed light on the important work of NGO entrepreneurs. So I'd love to introduce now Dr. Barbara Entsuah. Dr. Barbara Entsuah is a very dear colleague of mine, and she is a board-certified family medicine physician with a master's in community nutrition. She is a fellow of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons and has worked as a physician in primary care in Florida and elsewhere, having been a physician for 40 years. She is also an author, public speaker, educator, medical director, and vice president of Gateway of Hope Incorporated, a nonprofit organization that serves Ghanaians through free medical clinics, community health education, and sexual health education in schools. The group does screening for breast cancer and cervical cancer for women throughout Ghana. Barbara writes monthly health articles for social media platforms and on online news outlet modernghana.com. She has done monthly YouTube health talks for a women's channel in Florida. And she is very passionate about empowering lay women and men to take charge of their health. Barbara is an advisor and health news contributor to the Parkinson's Disease Support Group of Ghana and Global Legacy Matters, a health NGO in Florida. So welcome, Barbara. Thank you so much for being here. And I would just first like to start with what was your inspiration in starting Gateway of Hope, and how long have you been in operation?
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm really excited to be part of your show today. It gives me an opportunity to let people know what we are doing in a small way to impact people's lives. And so Gateway of Hope was formed officially, registered in Florida in 2006. And the inspiration was a number of things. As a Christian physician, I wanted to give back to my community, both in Florida and in Ghana, where I originally came from. And so my husband and I decided, well, let's form a nonprofit where we can take medical teams to Ghana to do free medical clinics and also education, the health education, which comes with that. And so we started that, and we started taking teams. And the teams were not necessarily people who were just medical. We had some people who were not medical, but they were interested in doing mission work. And so they joined us, and there's always work to do, even if you're not in the medical field. Yeah. So that was one of the inspirations do this NGO. The second one was where I trained as a family medicine physician. I trained in a Christian family medicine program where whole person medicine is practiced. So we looked at people's physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. And so based on that, we also went on medical mission trips to different countries and so on. And so I did some of that. And then when I graduated, I said, well, why don't I just continue by forming an NGO myself? So that's how the inspiration came.
Amazing. And yes, there's always work to do, especially in the health field and bringing, more access to people in areas that may not have as much access. So there's always something to do. So tell us a little bit more about the programs that you do facilitate in Ghana and the relationship you have, with other people, with other organizations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, in Ghana, my emphasis is in two main areas. There's health and then there's education. Under the health, like I said, we used to go and do free medical clinics. We take medicines. We see people with either acute problems or chronic problems like high blood pressure and so on. But after a while, I kind of felt that the impact doing that acute type of medical care it impacted people. But why don't we look at ways in which we can prevent, some of these diseases? Yeah. And so in the last 5 years or so, my concentration has been on women's health, and I love women's health, and so it's been mainly screening women for cervical cancer and breast cancer when I go. And because we do that and we have the opportunity to have the women present, we also check their blood pressure and blood sugar so that we make sure that those who have abnormal levels are referred somewhere. And the uniqueness of our health programs is that we normally take the screening to where the women are. In Ghana and Africa and other, maybe South America and all that, you find out that women tend to be at marketplaces, open marketplaces where they sell their wares, whether they're selling tomatoes or onions or whatever. They are under big, a big compound or so, and they have their tables and they are selling and so on. And so a lot of those women don't have time to say, I'm going to a clinic to have my cervical cancer screening for the year or whatever, or my breast cancer done like we have in the Western world. In the Western world, your doctor will normally send you a postcard and say, hey, it's time for you to have your screening done. But that is not so. So, and a lot of these women have not had much education, so they probably don't know much about what cancer is, or even if they know what cancer is, they don't know how they can prevent that cancer by early detection through screening. So we take the screening to the women where they are in the marketplace and also in churches. And soon we'll probably be adding other places like mosques and so on, where women congregate, basically. So that's the education, that's the health part. And then, of course, like you said, I write articles too, and monthly, just on, usually every month, there's a health awareness topic of some sort. Like this month is Women's Health Month, and other topics. And so I would normally write an article and then send it to an online newspaper and to friends and family. Okay, and and then the other aspect is that I also assist some people who are doing medical mission work as well. So I'm on the board for Global Legacy, which is doing work in the US and in Jamaica. So I went on a trip with them to Jamaica to do that. And then lastly, in Florida here itself, initially, I used to organize health fairs here. And now I changed from the health fairs to doing health education on a YouTube channel for a women's group that is here. So that is the education, that is the health part. Mm-hmm. And we also do health education as well. Yeah. But then there's education that we do. We have a school in a village in Ghana. The village is called Boate School. And we got involved in that also probably about 13, 14 years ago. When we went on one of the medical mission trips, we met a pastor friend, and he used to be in charge of that village and other towns around that area. And he said, this particular village, when they have a small school, and when he said school, it was a 2-room mud hut, and it belonged to the government. But then teachers would not go when they are appointed to go and teach there. They would not go because they didn't have accommodation and the school was just a 2-room school. And so he said the villagers want to embark on a community project to build, solid concrete couple of schoolrooms. And can your organization help? So we came, we talked to our church, and our church helped put those 2 rooms up. And then after that, he said, well, can you help us further? And then the rest is history. So we took over the school, and we now have about 180 students. And the school is from pre-K to junior high school 3, the 3rd year of junior high school. Yeah. And so we've come a long way, and we are very excited at what has been going on in the school. The other thing we do in terms of education is that part of our work as Gateway of Hope, we go to schools, government schools, private schools, from maybe about junior high to senior high school, and we talk to the young people about safety, personal safety. And what brought that about was the fact that we found out that some girls especially were being sexually abused, because the culture in Ghana is different from here. In Ghana, when kids are growing up, they are usually told you have to obey adults and do what they say, And in Ghana, we have young people going to sell things around the neighborhood. They may be selling fruit or mangoes or whatever. They may be selling stuff to help their parents financially, And when you go to sell, it is sad that sometimes adult males want to take advantage of the young girls and say, come into my house. I want to buy something. And if you are naive, you would go. And so one of the things we did was to teach them about personal safety at home, at school, and in the neighborhood. And because of that, I ended up writing a couple of books for young people so that they know how they can be safe and how to use their voice to say, no, I won't go with you. I can't come into your house. I can't come into your room. And so we ended up writing some books for young people to be safe. And then we found out that some people had been sexually abused. And we wrote another book to let them know that it's not their fault and that they can rise up and be victors. They are victors, not just survivors, but victors, because it wasn't their fault that led to the sexual abuse or harassment. So that is the thing. And the last book I wrote was for women. And that was my latest book. It's a woman's guide to her body and her total health. And we are tackling health in the form of physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. So those are some of the things that we have been doing over the years. And I am always excited, about the opportunity that we get to do so.
Yeah, wow. I'm so inspired and I'm learning so much about you. I know we work closely through, Sister Good and
Good.
yeah, but I had no idea you had schools in Ghana and that you provide this education around sexual health, which is in sexual education and safety, which is so important. And it's oftentimes, I think, an area that gets neglected to speak about, to talk about. There's a lot of fear around that. And to embrace that and bring that to the young people is so powerful. And wow, I mean, you're just saving, so many lives by helping them feel empowered inside of their voice at such a young age and in situations that could be very vulnerable. And with your health, the work that you're doing in health education, I'm a big I'm a big believer in living a preventable lifestyle rather than a curable lifestyle. What can we
That's
do
right.
ahead of time? And as you said, a lot of that just comes down to the education. People just need to know what are the steps they need to take, what can they do in their, whether that's in their nutrition or if it's regular checkups,
Mm-hmm.
or just understanding how our bodies work and
Yeah.
what we need to pay attention to. Yeah.
You're so right. And sometimes people don't realize that, for example, they have a chronic disease like high blood pressure.
Mhm.
Okay, so they are given medications. They are told, what diets you should try to avoid salt, too much salt, for example, and stuff like that. And when they finish their month's supply of medication, some people think, oh, then my disease is cured. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And so they may not renew their medicine. And we go and we check people's blood pressure, and their blood pressure is out of the roof. And I said, what happened? He said, oh, they gave me medicine 2 months ago. I finished taking it. I didn't realize that I needed to go for so. So, like we said, education is so much needed, and it's very important for people who have chronic diseases. And like you said, lifestyle is important. What people eat, and doing exercise, and so on, as part of disease prevention and disease progression prevention. So that's important. I had talked to you about our emphasis now on women's health and the cervical and breast cancer screening. And so what we do is that, like I told you, we go to the women. And so people may wonder, how do you screen a woman for cervical cancer when you take the screening to the market or to the church? Well, what we do is that we ask for a room, and we have a mobile bed,
Mhm.
a mobile bed we take with us. We have some screens that will give privacy. And these days, the pap smear, for example, is not the only test for cervical cancer. That's what is mostly used in the US, that and HPV testing.
Mhm.
But there's a simpler method that is used in developing uh, countries, which are now known as low or middle income countries. And they use a process called VIA testing, visual inspection with acetic acid. And acetic acid is basically vinegar. And so WHO has approved that. So you go, the woman gets ready, she lays on the bed, then you pass a speculum, you have a headlamp
Mhm.
to look into the um, vagina, and you see the cervix, and then you just paint it with the vinegar solution, and you wait uh, 1.5 minutes and look and see if you see any change.
Mhm.
You see on the cervix. And if there is a white change, we call it acetal white, then you know that something is going on there.
Mhm.
And then you can refer the woman to a place where they may do a pap smear or an HPV test, human papilloma test, where they are actually looking for signs of the virus. And
Mhm.
so that's what we do, and we utilize nurses who help. So that is how we screen the women when we take the screening to them. Okay. And later, when I'm telling you about what I desire for the future, I'll let you know what I desire in that area. Then with the breast screening, we also do clinical breast exam, where a trained health professional will clinically examine the breasts of the individual of the lady. But then there is exciting things is that there are now mobile devices that are being used. For example, there is um, a device which uses red light, you know, and you do the screening in a dark room. And
Mhm.
if there is a mass in the breast, it appears like a dark black mass, you know.
Yeah.
And so you can say that, well, after I've done my clinical breast exam and I use the red light and I see a mass there, then we can send that patient for a mammogram, because mammograms are expensive in developing countries, you know, in low and medium income countries. And so this is a quick way of breast awareness. And these devices actually have been approved in Europe for women to use at home, you know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
women who are doing their own self-awareness exams every month,
Mhm.
they can purchase these devices and use them every month after they do their self-awareness. And right now, the FDA in the US is looking into approval. Actually, they've approved it for women to use it as a form of breast self-awareness. Okay. So with us, we've purchased these devices and we are using them during our screenings.
Mhm.
And just last February, when I was in Ghana, we went to screen women in a church and we identified two women with masses. So we sent them to go and do mammograms. And when they went, um, at that month, it was October, breast cancer month. And so they tend to reduce the prices for the mammograms a little bit, just like they do in the US.
Mhm.
And they went for their mammograms. One was positive. She had to go and positive for breast cancer. So she went and had a mastectomy. The
Wow.
other one was a benign lesion. So we use these mobile devices. And there's also another mobile device called a mobile colposcope, which we use to look at the cervix more closely. It's more like a magnifying glass, if you see what I mean. So it
Mhm.
magnifies the what the cervix looks like, more than if I'm just using a headlight to look into the cervix. And so they are being used all over the world in low and medium income countries to make screening more accessible for women so that they too can be screened for these two deadly diseases which kill a lot of women all over the world.
Mhm. Wow. It's incredible how far we've come in the medical industry now to be able to
So
have these tools to help us much
it's
sooner.
amazing. It's
Yeah, we
amazing.
could really like that's just prevention right there. You know, if those women
Yeah.
hadn't come to you, it could have progressed and been really much worse. And
Mm-hmm.
nature too is so I'm always amazed at how intelligent nature is and how our bodies are designed in this intelligent connection to nature that something as simple as vinegar, it's, low
Yeah.
cost and
Low
these
cost.
you can move around with this and be mobile as you're saying and be able to have these kinds of preventative measures, these
Mm-hmm.
tests. Um,
Yeah.
it's incredible, like what we've discovered, and
I know. I know. Because if there are abnormal cells on the cervix,
Mhm,
then they kind of pick up the vinegar.
mhm,
There's a reaction with the cells, and then it turns white.
mhm.
Okay, instead of the nice and pink that we normally see for a
Yeah,
normal cervix. So
yeah,
once you see that white lesion, you know something is happening
okay.
and something more has to be done. Maybe more tests have to be done or
Mhm,
so. And then we would refer them to go to some other clinics or hospitals, which may do a pap smear or they may do an HPV test. And then also the exciting thing is that the human papilloma virus, which is the virus which causes most cervical cancer, now they have rapid tests where you can do a rapid test in the field. Just like you have when you have a sore throat here, you go and they will swab your throat and do a quick strep test on you. You
mhm,
can also have a sample taken
mhm.
from the woman's vagina. She can even self-sample. And then you put it on a little cassette, just like we use for the rapid strep test. And then you put a little solution on it and you wait. And if it can turn positive or negative for human papilloma virus. And so for women who can afford that, we also have it available for them,
Mhm.
because we go to some places and some women say, okay, I mean, you the the vinegar test, it's the cheapest test. And to be honest, what we do is that a lot of times where we go, we subsidize the test. Unless it's a very poor village, then they may have it for free. But we want people to be drawn away from the mentality of everything being free.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we subsidize. And then I'm sure you ask me later about fundraising and all that, but we fundraise and subsidize the testing so that people, when people pay for something, they feel it's a good thing
Yeah.
most times. When
Yeah.
they get it for free, then they don't value it. So
Mhm.
that's one reason why we let most people pay something small. And you'll be amazed, even the women in the market, they are prepared to pay something. Once you educate them, you show them pictures of what cervical cancer can look like.
Mhm.
When they see, they know that, I need this test. Or
Mhm.
if they see what the breast mass is looking when we use the red light, everywhere in the breast is red, except where the mass is, it's black. Then they realize this, so they will pay and come and do the test.
Mhm.
Okay. Subsidize. And we subsidize it through our organization from the fundraising that we do. Yeah. So it is exciting times, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about breast devices that are coming out and mobile devices that can be used to view the cervix
Mhm.
more efficiently and effectively. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. It feels so good when we take care of ourselves and we invest in ourselves and we're
Yeah.
willing to spend that money to take
Mhm.
care of our bodies, our health, and our education. It really does make a difference in
It
our
does.
our self-esteem and our confidence and making that a priority. It does help to contribute something to that.
That is right. Priority.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would love to know, like, I mean, as an NGO entrepreneur, I know one of the biggest challenges that can be straight up is financial, our funding to do to be able to carry out the vision and the mission and the
Mhm.
desire that we have to help make a difference. It does come down to
Mhm.
financial. Um, so I'm sure that's been part of your journey as well of getting funding, getting whether that's through grants, donors, fundraising. Talk to us a little bit about that, and also what other challenges um, do you encounter? I also come from running an NGO in another country. I was living in LA and running my
Mhm.
program in Bosnia, and sometimes that allowed me more access to things here in the US that I could then, bring over, which helped. And then there were other challenges that came up where you're doing something in another country and there are just different um sometimes laws or just ways of doing things that you have regulations that you have to be aware of, things that you have to get through to be able to do your project. So talk to us a little bit
Yes.
about, yeah, some of the challenges that you've encountered.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm glad that when you run a group, there are always challenges, but then there are successes as well. So we'll talk about that later. But the
Yeah.
challenges, like you said, funding. Funding is a big one. When we started, um, like I said, our church had helped us, even get the building going for the school. And so um, I did a program called Adopt a Student. Okay, where people could adopt one of the students and pay uh, a certain amount every month to help with the students, because the school is free.
Mhm.
Okay, they don't pay tuition. The school is free. We pay the teachers.
Mhm.
We right now we also pay for the bus to bring them to school. Okay, and then we also feed the children lunch. Now we ask them to pay between 15 cents a day for transportation, 15 to 20 cents a day for transportation back and forth, and then also for feeding, about 30 cents and that is a problem for some um, parents.
Mhm.
And so we have some kids who we subsidize their feeding. And with what they are paying, what I mentioned is subsidized feeding. But for some, we have them on scholarship. Okay, so they don't pay anything for the feeding. Okay, yeah, and for their lunch, and so the program that I started at the church, Adopt a Student, um, that church that we were part of, it had to close, okay? And so people who were part of the church moved to different churches. And when that happens, people's priorities change. And so even at that time, not all the children were being sponsored through the Adopt a Student program. And so the numbers really went down in terms of those who were sponsoring the kids. And because at that time, even at the peak when we had quite a few people doing it, not every kid was sponsored. And so what we did with what came in, well, it was spread amongst all the kids. It's for all the kids. And I made people realize it, that look, this money is not for this particular church, this particular kid you are sponsoring. But because we don't have enough sponsored kids, it spread. So if it's going to be used to buy books, school supplies, is for everybody, not just your kid. Okay. So the numbers who were sponsoring our kids went down, unfortunately. So that was that has been a challenge. Okay. The other challenge is that um I had to before I'm on retirement now, but before I went at that time I had to take time off, unpaid, time off to be able to travel to Ghana. And then I wouldn't be able to spend as much time in Ghana because I had to come back and work. Okay. So that had been a big challenge. And now that I've retired, um, I have to come back and forth, but at least I can spend longer times in Ghana when I go. And then the other challenge is educating the women to make them aware that, look, these are cancers that are killing women in Ghana. And so get screened. Okay. A lot had been done with breast cancer screening. So a lot of them had just clinical breast exam, not mammogram, because they can't afford it. So they will tell you, oh, some people came to the market and they screened us by somebody examining our breast. But, we had taken it a notch higher by using the device. Okay. And so we let them know that the device may be able to pick up more masses in the breast than just the clinical breast exam. And so educating them, letting them know that you should make your health a priority, because if you die or even if you get sick, you have to spend a lot of money. And if you die, who would look after your children, and so on and so forth. So getting that message across to them is sometimes challenging, you know, that's that. And then we also have a culture of people not going to see a doctor or or a nurse for preventive things. When you come to Ghana, when it comes to prevention in kids, children age 1 to 5, it's excellent. They go for their well baby checks. They go for weighing. They go for their immunizations and all that, But the mothers, they don't realize that your own body also goes through some changes. And so you need to have those preventative things done for you. And so getting that shift from not waiting too long when it comes to your medical stuff. And for a lot of people who are diagnosed with breast cancer and cervical cancer in Ghana, most are stage 4. It's gone on for a long time, and they never went to see a doctor until things were at the end. And in Ghana, almost 3,000 women die every year from breast cancer, and about 2,400 die from cervical cancer. because they wait too long. And it's because of that culture of not going to a clinic or a hospital unless you are really sick. And so we are trying to change that mentality that people have. So the other challenge is that a lot of the parents where we live are poor. And that's why some of them are not able to afford to use 15 cents a day to feed their kids the lunch and or even transportation. And then the parents having the mentality that education is very important. You know, some of them are not educated or they didn't go far. So they don't see why their girl child should be educated, for example, or their boys should be educated. I'd rather have them help me sell goods in the market or whatever, or goods instead of going to school. So that education is important so that they don't, because some of them will take the kids out of school and take them somewhere when it's not holiday time, you know, they are going for a funeral somewhere. So they'll take the kids out of school for 3 or 4 days. And the kid will then be missing school, you know. So that is also a challenge when it comes to our kids. And then one particular challenge when it comes to our boys in the school is that, unfortunately, there is a practice in Ghana where people mine illegal gold mining. And our school area is one of the areas where that is taking place. And the gold mining is done by, you know, they dig the soil around there, then they wash the soil and look for little pieces of gold. And so these boys, when they go and do that, they are paid some money. And so because they are making that money, which seems to them to be really good money, they stop school and they don't come to school, you know. So you have that, like our junior high 3 and junior high 2, majority of the students are girls because the boys that we had, some of them stopped to go and do illegal gold mining, you know. So that has been a challenge for the school. Now, about the poverty challenge, I forgot to mention to you that one of the things that I decided to do was to see how I can get the women in the village to earn a source of income so that they can save some. And when the children finish the junior high, they would have enough money to send them to senior high school. And so I had been trying to see what kind of skills training can we give the women. And the success in that is that we now have 2 groups of women in the village and in the village around. One group has been taught how to sew reusable sanitary pads. Okay. These are sanitary pads which are made of flannel and cotton in a waterproof shield, which are reusable so that they can use them when they have their periods, wash them outside to dry in the sun and reuse them, you know. So those are being used by many people. In fact, some people even in the US use reusable pads. And so we and a couple of group of other organizations have gotten together, and the women of Boate near the school, we've built a structure and they are sewing these reusable pads so that they can be sold to women in churches and hopefully in the market. When we've done enough, we have a pilot. We just started in March. So it's a pilot project at this time. And then another set group of women are going to be taught how to make liquid soap so that once they have it, they can sell the liquid soap. Yeah. So that's one way we are trying to make them get a skill and earn money. And then they can, you know, look after the children's education so that they can go further than the junior high, which is where our school stops at. So that is That has been another one. Then we've had issues with water, electricity. We just had electricity about a year ago. And water, thanks to Rotary Club in Ghana, we are going to have a borehole or well in the school itself.
Oh.
The one that we have is about half a mile away. So the driver has to go and fetch the water and bring it for the kitchen women to use for the cooking, you know. So we are going to have a borehole well at the school in the next few weeks, and we are excited about that.
Very exciting. Congratulations. That's definitely a success and a victory.
Yeah,
Yeah, leads me
yeah, it is.
yeah, leads me to my
It
next
has.
question because we have these challenges, but after the challenge we have victory. That's what
Yes.
and success. And so
It-
I mean, without you even having to say, I can already see the major victories and successes would be how many lives are being saved in the process through
yeah.
prevention and screenings and the education to make a change in their individual lives. Is there anything else you'd like to share about the successes that you have experienced through
Yeah.
that almost
Yeah.
20 years?
Well,
Yeah.
I know. Well, some of the successes, like now that when we do the cervical and breast cancer screening, we add screening for blood pressure and blood sugar. We've also identified some people who have abnormal numbers, and so we refer them.
Mhm.
We do some medication and refer them to go to a clinic or a hospital, and we write a referral for them so that they can take it there, and then they can be seen at that place.
Mhm.
Okay. And what I do sometimes is that in Ghana, most of the pharmacies may even have blood pressure cuffs that they can take blood pressure for free for people. So I give them a recipe card and I say, take it to the pharmacy, go there for 1 week every day. So you get a set of reading, and then you take it to the clinic or the hospital so that it's not based on that one reading we did at the health outreach, but you have a few readings, and then they can know whether, they advise you on diet and exercise, which we'll also do before they leave. And then if they need to start medication, they can start medication on that. And then the other the other thing that I think is a great success is that, well, before I go to that, there was a challenge I forgot to mention, and that is getting enough qualified teachers to teach at the school. We have to pay the teachers. And
Mhm.
so our teachers, not all of them are real qualified teachers.
Mhm.
They have education, they've been educated in certain area, but those not all of them have teacher certification, if you see what I mean, because we can't afford to pay all of them. And so some of them don't have. But the success about that is that we have a couple of groups that we've worked with who are uh, teaching the teachers, and they do that we have two programs. There's a group here called Ghanaian Mothers Foundation. They are out of Sarasota in Florida. And every year for the past 6 or 7 years, each summer, they go and do a reading camp for our children. And they teach the teachers, how to teach the children how to read.
Mhm.
Each year they come. So our teachers get that extra teacher training. And then we have another group, which is called the Book in School program, where 20 minutes every morning, the children read aloud from a book that they've been given in the class. And that also helps the children to read. And before the program started, the teachers also had to go for training.
Mhm.
So we found ways of, helping to train the teachers and to help them up their game as teachers, So that I think is a success in terms of the school. Yeah. And then in terms of the school, the great success is that I told you we started with 2 math hearts. Now we have a total of um, I think 14 rooms, and they are built of concrete structures. And one is a story building, a
Mhm.
2-story floor building. And the funny thing is that the villagers at Boate, those who come from Boate, which is where the school is, they said Boate is the only village around here which has a story building. And so that has been exciting. And then the computer lab, which
Yeah.
was, with 19 computers that was put up by a Rotary Club.
Mhm.
Okay. It was a Rotary Club in this same Sarasota through the Ghanaian Mothers Foundation. And we have these computers so the kids can go and learn on computers. And that has been since we got electricity in the school, which was about a year ago. Okay. And then, like I said, we're going to have water again, a borehole school soon from the Rotary Club. So that has been a success. This other success is being able to get the women to do something. You
Mhm.
know, they've been trained. They've been trained, but the next thing is probably a challenge too. I guess is getting them a loan or a grant so that after the training, the cooperative that they form can get some money to buy the the things that are needed, the cloth and
Mhm.
the soap making stuff. Yeah, because they've been provided by us. For example, the pad making thing, we and the other organization bought the flannel, the waterproof stuff and all that, the cotton and machines, sewing machines,
Mhm.
you know. And recently a friend of ours donated 2 sewing machines, and these are the hand sewing machines,
Okay.
and we had 3 over there. So we've at least gotten these things, but um the challenges are the
Mhm.
funding,
Mhm.
getting funding for these things. And then also we want a bigger library. Somebody had promised us that, and we are seeing whether she will come through in us having a bigger library for the uh, younger kids,
Mhm.
where they can go and read books and so on. So that is also another success, I would say. And in terms of the health issues, the success is that we do have a group of nurses and midwives in Ghana that we work with, in terms of screening the women. Um, and we are hoping to get more of these mobile devices that are available now. There's one which uses temperature of the skin.
Mhm.
If there's a lump in your breast, the skin temperature is a little higher. So
Mhm.
it uses an AI technology and temperature of the skin to detect breast cancer early. Although mammogram is the gold standard, this thermography device is one that we want to get and take to Ghana,
Mhm.
so that we can use it for the women. So there are exciting things ahead, although there are challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're advancing and you're in it sounds like a great momentum and of advancement and progression and very exciting things on the horizon coming for you. Tell us a little before we close, we have a couple more minutes, and then about your team. Do you have volunteers? What do you need? I'm going to put all the information down about Barbara below
Yeah,
and how you could reach out to her and her organization and just talk to us a little. I mean, you can see your donations will definitely be put to great use. So tell us a little bit about what are your
yeah.
needs and
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So our needs, I just talked to you about this device, breast screening device, which uses a thermography temperature. Okay. And that costs like $20,000. And so we would want to take one to Ghana so that we can use it. Um, and the screening takes less than 5 minutes, and then you have an AI generated report.
Mhm.
And it's being used in India, for example. They've
Mhm.
screened over 150,000 women in India with that device. And so we would like to purchase one of that. And
Mhm.
then we do also need things like uh, this HPV quick rapid test that I talked about. We would want to, buy some to take
Mhm.
over to use at least, so that even if we get a woman with an abnormal looking cervix,
Mhm.
maybe we could do an HPV test on her right away and see what is happening with her. So we need those medical um, medical, consumables,
Mhm.
basically.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then the device. There's also a mobile device for treating lesions of the cervix. It uses a heat technology to treat the lesion,
Mhm.
and for women who we know have, you know, uh, pre-cancer lesions. I'm not talking about cancer, but
Yeah.
pre-cancer lesions. That's the ones that we are looking for. Because between getting a pre-cancer lesion and developing cancer itself of the cervix, it takes about at least 10 years.
Mhm.
And that's why we want to catch the pre-cancer lesion so it doesn't develop into cancer. Yeah. And then the school library would love to have a good library, for the children. And then transportation. The other big thing is we want a, re, a reliable means of transportation,
Mhm.
because the road to the school is bad. And so our poor bus is always having problems, But anyway, we are grateful that we have partners, and we are grateful if there are any other people who would want to join us. Some people who have had breast cancer before, or have had cancer before, and are willing to help women in low and medium income countries. Hey, this is the opportunity for you to join us, and we welcome anybody who even wants to go with us to see what we do, or if they just want to donate, they can do so on our um, on our web page. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barbara. I'm so inspired. I've learned so much, and you are truly one of the heroes doing what you say you do. And I feel it in your passion, your excitement, and everything that you just shared with us. So, Dr. Barbara is the real deal. Her organization, Gateway of Hope, is the real deal. If there is any way you would like to contribute, donate, be on the ground with her, please reach out to her. I will have everything down in the caption for you. And thank you so much for spending this time with us and listening to another NGO entrepreneur story, because the
And
NGO,
Amy, before
yes,
we go, can I just mention that
yes,
our web page needs updating? So please, we
okay.
just got somebody yesterday who would do it for us. We have to send more current pictures and all that. So don't let that um, uh, dissuade you from helping us if you want to help us. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Yes, they are in full working order, and that's exciting. That's a new progression too, a new advancement. Having your website redone, it's one of
Yeah.
those things that just has to get done sometimes, and that's exciting. So, thank you for being here, and thank you again, Barbara, for spending this time with me today. I
Thank
love our
you.
conversation, and I'm
Thank you.
sending you the best, and we'll continue to be in touch of how we continue to
Yes.
support your
Thank
project.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. God bless. Okay.
Okay.